Alright everyone, welcome back to the devlog series for the game about a photographer joining an expedition to the end of the world. In this video, I have a tutorial for you guys, so if this is what you're here for, feel free to skip ahead. I will have a timestamp for you, but if you want some background, then here it is. As you can see, this is still pre-alpha 002, and we are still just a disembodied floating camera. One of the pieces of feedback I got for you guys is that it feels kind of weird that we're just like a ghost hovering around, and very specifically, when you run, it feels like you are a spaceship. And that's true, right? It's just floating through space here. And that's not really what I want. It's not a very good experience. So it's high time that I get us set up with a proper first-person character. Let's take a look at Unreal Engine's first-person template. And this is what it looks like. We're holding a rifle, we can see our left hand, and we're sort of shuffling around, so it feels as if we're really there. But if I look down, we can see that, first of all, I have no body, and I'm not even casting a shadow. Only the rifle is casting a shadow. So we're not really here. If we go and take a look at the actual character, we can see that it is as we have suspected. We are just a pair of floating arms and not a real character. Or rather, we don't have a real body. Some games address this by just giving you a pair of legs, so you're just a floating pair of arms and a pair of legs, and they hide all of the missing bits with the camera angle. Here's an example from Hunt Showdown, a game that I like. As you can see, we're in first person, I have a hand and a gun, and if I look down, I even have legs and I'm casting a shadow. But if I move just right, you can see that I'm hollow, so I have no body. I am just a set of arms and a set of legs. So how are we casting a shadow? Well, what we see is just this, the arms and the legs, but the world or other players, since this is a multiplayer game, see a different 3D model of an entire character. Another famously bad example is this from the game Crysis 2, where you do have a body, but I don't know what about you guys, I don't bend that way. So for this to work, we need to have two different character models, one that is just the arms and legs and one that is the entire body, and we need to sync up the animations between them to get them to move together. The problem that I have with this is that I'm not an animator, and I think it would be really difficult for me to make this work, even though this is the way many people in the industry do it. So I'm going to have to go about this a different way, and that is what's called true first person or body awareness first person. What that means is that you have just one 3D model and one set of animations, and that comes with its own set of challenges. Let's go to the tutorial part of the video and I'll show you what I mean. So here we are in the third person template. If I hit play, this is just what it is. It's the third person template. And the first thing we see is that when we move, the character is facing where we're moving and not where we're looking. So we want the character to strafe. Inside the third person character blueprint, I go into the root of the character. I can look for controller yaw, and we can see that use controller rotation yaw has been modified. The default value is enabled, so we can turn it on and have it true. And now if we play, we can see that moving forward looks the same, but now we're strafing. Obviously, the animation is all wrong, and I don't have any good animations for you. I'm sorry. Go to Mixamo or something. Instead, let's set up a first-person view. Let's start by deleting the camera and the camera boom. Select the mesh and add another camera. Now the camera is parented to the mesh. It's a child of the mesh. And it's looking at its feet, which is not what we want. What we want is for it to look at its head. So let's, under parent socket, let's type head. And now the camera is parented to the head bone. And you can see that the rotation of the head bone is such that makes the camera look straight up and not where Quinn is looking. So we're going to have to rotate our camera. So let's do just that. Let's give it like 90 degrees this way and 90 degrees this way. And now we can see that it's oriented correctly, but it's not positioned great, right? It's still in the back of Quinn's head. So let's turn this down to 1, the snapping down to 1. And let's try to sort of position ourselves where we think the bridge of her nose is, just like we can see by the right dot. It's like right here, I guess. That looks good to me. You can do whatever you want. And this is our first person camera. Now let's hit play. I don't know what about you guys. I normally don't get motion sickness, but this I'm getting queasy. If we move, it'll be even worse. Now, bear in mind, this is pretty realistic head motion. If you slap a GoPro on your forehead and go for a run, this is more or less what you'll see. What's missing from this experience is the fact that as humans, our brains and eyes do a pretty good job of compensating for this. So to compensate for the head's movement, we need to handle the head's rotation and the head's location. Back in our third-person character, under the camera, we can turn on Use Pawn Control Rotation. So now if I hit compile and play, immediately it's better. The camera is using the pawn control rotation and not the head bone rotation. If you look closely though, you'll see that the head is still bobbing along with the animation. You don't really notice it if we're looking at things that are far away, but if I put my face to the corner of the wall here, then you really notice it. To account for that, we are going to use procedural animation to stabilize our head in place. Let's hop into Mannequin's rigs, and let's create a new control rig. We're going to call it procedural rig stabilize POV. And we're greeted with this empty viewport. So let's import a hierarchy. I want the Manny skeleton. Doesn't matter if you do Manny or Quinn here. The skeleton is what's important. And let's give ourselves a preview that we can see what we're doing. So now we have Manny. He's walking. Let's zoom in on the head and slow ourselves down because that's what we'll be focused on. So let's see what we're even dealing with. So we want to move the head bone, right? Our camera is parented to the head bone, and we want the head bone to be stabilized. Bone! So let's start with get transform, and I want to get the head bone. And for the head bone, we can draw transform. Instead of axes, which you can't really see, we're going to do point and smaller. This is the head bone, and this is where the animation places the head bone. But this is not where we want the head bone to be. So let's start by creating a variable. I'm going to call it head target. We can set it. If we do another draw transform with the head target, we can even give it a different color. Let's make it green. We can see that they're perfectly overlapping because we didn't do anything yet. So let's do something. Instead of every frame just setting the head target to be the head bone, let's start by, first of all, just leaving it blank. Okay, and if we recompile it, we can see that it's on the ground. This is not where we want it to be. So let's initialize it if it's empty. So if this is equal to an empty transform, then I want to set it to the current head location. And then regardless of whether I set it or not, on completed, I want to draw the transforms. let me know in the comments below if you spot the potential bug from this setup. Okay, so if the head target is empty, set it to where the head bone is, and then draw both of them, both the head bone and the head target. And now we can already see that something else is happening here, right? We can see that the green dot, that's our head target, is stationary, and the red dot, our actual head bone, is moving around. This is because we only did this once. We only set we did this once. We only set the head target once when we started playing the animation, and the head target didn't have a value, so it is currently in the place of the head bone's first frame in the animation. We can see that they even intersect occasionally because the head bone was there. To better visualize the difference between these two, we can even add a draw line node, and I want to draw the line between the head target and the head bone. Right, so this is the difference. And in order for us to get a bit of a nicer stabilized effect that's also relative to the animation, right? If now I suddenly change this to run, we can see that this is not where we want the head to be, right? Because we didn't update the head target. It has a value, it didn't update. So this would look very weird when we're actually running. All right, let's get back to walk. So if this line, the distance between them is above a certain threshold, I want to move the head target. So let's do just that. We can even have it instead of our original initialization logic. So I want the head target, and I want the head transform, the head bone. And let's get the length between both of their locations. For that, use subtract, and then get the vector length. And if this is greater than, let's put in some arbitrary number. I don't know if that's good. We're going to find out. If it's greater than 10 and I plug it in, then it might move, right? If I compile, we can see that it doesn't look like it did much, but now it'll move if we change the animation. Right, so let's change back into running, and now it moved. Okay, we can see that it's snapping a bit, right? Because when we're running, then apparently the distance between them is greater than 10 more often. So let's bump it up a bit. And with 12.5, it looks okay. You can set this to a variable and expose it, and then edit it per character or per animation set that you have. That be simple. But we're still not doing anything, right? The head is still not stabilized. So let's do one last thing. We want to set transform, and I want to set the transform of the head bone to be the head target's transform, and go. See, now we look like a chicken. Right, now the head bone is stabilized relative to the world, regardless of what the body is doing. Right, if we go back into the walk animation, he's going to go back and he's stabilized. And if I go back into the idle animation, he is also stabilized. He looks kind of silly because this is a part 1. For part 2, stay tuned, like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. But let's see how this looks like, how this feels like in game. So to actually use this, we need to call this control rig somewhere. So compile and save. And to call the control rig, we need the Manny animation blueprint. And in the animation graph, we can see that it calls the control rig for the foot IK to set the feet in place. So let's just add another control rig. and tell it to be the rig we just made, the procedural rig. We can see that it's already doing something, right? It already looks different, right? The head is stable. And now if we hit play, it looks the same. And if we walk over to the wall, we can see that the wall is not moving. Our POV is stabilized. Good job. However, we're far from done, right? If I take a look at the ground, we can see that the shadow doesn't look great, right? I mean, it looks like what it looks like. The head is stabilized while the body's moving. We could see earlier that it stretches the neck. If I run, then it's even better, right? This is not, this kind of breaks my immersion, I gotta say, you guys. This is not what running should look like. And another problem we have, you can notice some snapping when I start moving. If I jump, it'll be even more pronounced, I think. Right? This is because in our rig, we're just setting the head target to the new head location. We should interpolate or lerp between them to make the transition a bit smoother. But I think this is enough for a part 1. Like I said, if you want a part 2, then let me know. Also, Pre-Alpha 002 is still alive and well on itch.io, so feel free to go give it a try and then maybe come to Discord and tell me all about it. Links for everything will be in the description. As always, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you like the true first-person idea, or do you think sticking with the traditional approach is a better choice? Let me know what you think. If you've enjoyed this video, you can check out this game's devlog playlist, and if you want to see more, be sure to do all the good YouTube stuff, to like and subscribe and hit the little bell notification so you won't miss out the next video. I try to get them out every 2 weeks. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more good things, and I'll see you next time.